After pushing mask mandates, Democrats are now reversing course. Is it because of the science or politics? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. You should be using a VPN like Surfshark to protect yourself whenever you go online. So, throughout the pandemic, Americans have been struggling. Small businesses have collapsed, and children have been traumatized. But fortunately, Democrats and Republicans have put that all aside and focused on what really matters, using the pandemic for their endless political battles. Take mask mandates. It's become a left-right issue. Democrats typically favor mask mandates, except for themselves. Republicans, on the other hand, generally question the effectiveness of masks and support voluntary mask wearing. My body, my choice, what Republicans have said all along. But now, liberal-leaning states are shifting to a new approach, moving towards an engage-at-your-own-risk stance that many conservative areas embraced a year ago. Personally, I've always had an engage-at-your-own-risk stance when in conservative areas, because so many conservatives are armed, with the Bill of Rights Pocket Edition. I don't need to hear more arguments about strict constructionism. I surrender. Last Monday, the governors of Delaware, New Jersey, and Oregon, all Democrats, announced that indoor mask mandates would be phased out by late March. California phased it out this week, but only for the vaccinated. A few days later, the governors of New York, Illinois, and Rhode Island, also all Democrats, announced they were lifting their mask mandates as well, with exceptions such as for schools and public transit. This is despite the fact that the White House is sticking with stricter guidance. The White House is thinking about a plan for the post-pandemic emergency period, but the Biden administration is unwilling to endorse an easing of school masking. The CDC still recommends masks for people 2 years and up, which obviously means that the CDC has never had to deal with a 2-year-old. So how is the White House taking this rebellion by Democratic governors? Pretty well, actually. According to Press Secretary Jen Psaki, we're continuing to convey to governors that they abide by federal public health guidelines, but also our understanding that they may make decisions based on what they feel is best for their communities. Wow! That's pretty different to the reaction Republican governors got for doing the same thing last year. I believe that was called Neanderthal thinking. Yes, according to President Biden, we've gone from Florida man to Encino man. No offense, Florida, I just really wanted to use that graphic. So why are these Democratic governors going against the White House and lifting mask mandates now? Yes, the seriousness of COVID is different now, with Omicron being not nearly as deadly. But it might have less to do with science and more to do with politics. I'll explain after the break. Welcome back. So we're seeing some pretty dramatic shifts on mask mandates. Within about a month, CNN medical analyst and George Washington University public health professor, Dr. Leana Wen, went from saying that everyone, including children, should be wearing masks, to now saying we should lift mask restrictions. Many argue the situation has changed.
In fact, the science has changed. The virus itself has changed. This pandemic has gone through phases, and it's required different responses at different times. And I do think we're now at a point, I hope we're at a point where we can relax some restrictions and start getting back to some semblance of normalcy and learning to live with this virus.
And we are seeing a decline in cases. The number of Americans in the hospital with COVID-19 has declined 24% since mid-January to about 111,000. So, when some Republican governors lifted restrictions a year ago, it was premature. When Democratic governors do it now, it's because the situation has changed. According to Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont, now we're at a different place. We're in the backside of Omicron. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says COVID cases are coming down and it's time to adapt.
We're not going to manage COVID to zero. We have to learn how to live with COVID as we move from a pandemic to the endemic phase of this virus.
Oregon Governor Kate Brown said she's lifting mask mandates as a reward for people taking preventative actions. The point is, this is a win for Democrats' strong, science-based leadership, which is totally different from Republican governors doing the same thing a year ago, when vaccines were being distributed and COVID cases were also going down. Yes, in retrospect, Delta happened, but there could be more variants after Omicron, too. So is the Democrats' change in policy really based on science? Well, some Republicans say it's not because the science has changed, but because public opinion polls have changed. According to the latest poll by the Kaiser Family Foundation, more than 7 in 10 adults across party lines say they are tired and frustrated. The Monmouth University Polling Institute came up with a similar conclusion last month. 7 in 10 Americans agree with the sentiment that it's time we accept that COVID is here to stay and we just need to get on with our lives. Just over half of Americans support instituting or reinstituting face mask and social distancing guidelines. Still a lot, but down from 63% in September. Not only that, but approval ratings for governors dealing with the coronavirus outbreak are also decreasing. This isn't just right-leaning Americans. According to the founding director of University College London's Center on U.S. Politics, there's no doubt that even among more liberal voters, patience for stringent COVID measures is wearing thin. And this is an election year. Midterms are coming up in November. According to CNN, Democrats nationwide are desperate for the pandemic to be history when voters, who remember Biden's promise to end it, go to the polls in midterm elections in November. So are Democrats removing mask mandates because cases are going down, or is it because of the midterms? Who knows? And that's the problem. Science and politics have gotten so mixed up and confused that nobody knows what's really going on anymore. I'll have more on that after the break. Welcome back. Politics and science have become a muddy mess. So even though a lot of states have begun lifting mask mandates, officials in some cities, counties, and school districts indicated that they would keep their own mandates in place, adding new complications to an already confusing array of rules across the country. That's why some schools are keeping mask mandates, and some are getting rid of them. You can tell which one the kids are happy about.
Starting tomorrow, we don't have to wear masks anymore!
The CDC still has far-reaching recommendations for masking, especially for masking in schools. Universal indoor masking by all students age 2 and older, staff, teachers, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. The CDC says that's based on the science. And the CDC did conduct 3 studies looking at the effectiveness of mask mandates in schools. The first one looked at schools in Georgia before vaccines were available, and concluded that masking teachers showed a statistically significant decrease in transmission, but that masking kids did not. The other 2 studies didn't control for variables like vaccination rates, so it's unclear whether mask mandates themselves were responsible for lower COVID rates. That's why, according to some scientists, the overall takeaway from these studies that schools with mask mandates have lower COVID-19 transmission rates than schools without mask mandates is not justified by the data that have been gathered. Other studies comparing schools that require masks and those that don't found no statistical differences. In fact, according to one study, mask-optional districts had even less COVID cases. Scientists and physicians who have reviewed the data on school masking find that well-controlled, real-world studies consistently fail to find a convincing benefit, while studies cited to support masking have serious flaws. That's why many countries, including the UK, Sweden, and Norway, have followed the World Health Organization's mask guidelines, which actually recommends against making children 5 and under wear masks. That's because this group is at low risk of illness, because masks are not in the overall interest of the child, and because many children are unable to wear masks properly, as anyone who's tried to get a 2-year-old to wear a mask will know. So why does the CDC still recommend this? Is it politics or science? Why are Democrats now rejecting mask mandates? Is it politics or science? Why did many Republican governors reject them a year ago? Was it politics or science? Well, I don't know. but I can think of a foolproof scientific experiment that will prove whether the CDC really believes we should be masking kids in schools. Give everyone in the CDC a classroom of 2-year-olds. We'll know the answer in less than a week. And this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. With lots of government restrictions coming and going, you never know what's going to happen next. But at least you can protect yourself when you go online. The government and big tech are constantly monitoring citizens like you and me. And that's why you should always be keeping your internet activity private by using a VPN like Surfshark. Surfshark secures your data with top-of-the-line uncrackable encryption. And on top of that, Surfshark intentionally does not keep logs of what you do. In fact, it keeps a server network in the British Virgin Islands, where local laws allow Surfshark to not keep user data logs. Surfshark cares about your privacy and security. That's why we've been working with them for years. So if you haven't checked out Surfshark, do it now. And with just one Surfshark account, you can connect as many devices as you want. To try it out now, Surfshark has a special deal that includes 83% off a 2-year plan plus 3 extra months for free. You can protect yourself for just $221 a month. So go to surfshark.com/uncovered and use the code UNCOVERED to secure this deal. The link is in the description below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.